Let's go back in time to a place where all hell is about to break loose. Jerusalem, 1098 CE. For years, the Franks have been trying to take over Jerusalem. They twice formed poorly organized armies that were quickly overcome by the Muslim defenders around Jerusalem. This time, the Franks are prepared. Jerusalem wouldn't know what hit them. These missions to take over Jerusalem were called Crusades. The Crusades were happening because back in 1071, the Turks took the Byzantine emperor prisoner. Word reached Europe where there was a surplus of knights without enough battles to fight in. At this time, there are too many nobles and not enough land, leading to knights without anything to do. When the news of the emperor's capture reached Pope Urban II, he decided he needed to take action. It would be a good use of the surplus of knights with nothing to do, and it was a good chance to take over Jerusalem for the Catholic Church. Plus, there was an emperor captured. The Pope preached that going to take over Jerusalem in God's name would be an easy way into heaven. So, the First Crusade began. The Crusaders were poorly armed and organized, as well as completely unprepared. They were easily killed by Jerusalem's defenders. The next Crusades were started by a man named Peter the Hermit. He recruited people from all classes to go take Jerusalem. Once again, unprepared and poorly organized, as well as very poorly armed, they were overpowered easily. This time is different. The Crusaders are better prepared. Actual knights in actual shining armor are going to battle. And so begins the Third Crusade. The Crusaders reached the city of Prince Khalij Arslan. The Muslim people were not prepared. They expected the poorly organized Franks of last year, not knights in full-blown shining armor. The Muslim defenders were easily overpowered, and the Crusaders moved on. When news of defeat reached Antioch, a neighboring town next on the list of the Crusaders, the king freaked. He sent for help, but none came. Neighboring people were too scattered or worried about their own kingdoms, so they wouldn't help the people of Antioch. Antioch fell. The Crusaders went south towards the city of Ma'ara. The Ma'arans were terrified. They sent for help, but like with the people of Antioch, none came. The other Muslims wanted to take Ma'ara for themselves. They were too selfish to help the Ma'arans in a time of need. The Crusaders killed the people of Ma'ara, murdering anyone on sight. The Crusaders were out of food, despite all of their success. They ate all the food they found in Ma'ara, but were still starving. They ate all the animals they could spare, but it still wasn't enough. They turned to cannibalism, eating the people of Ma'ara. Even after all this time, the Muslim people could not unite. Some even invited the Crusaders to their cities. One such king was the king of Tripoli. The Crusaders conquered Tripoli, killing their king. The Fatimid vizier was another person who liked the Crusaders at first, but learned he was wrong. When the Franks took Tripoli, the Fatimids took Jerusalem. They said the Crusaders could visit whenever they wanted, but the Crusaders weren't interested in a deal. They wanted Jerusalem for themselves. The Crusaders marched through empty land to Jerusalem. All the people had heard of the killing and cannibalism of the Franks and fled, so the Crusaders reached Jerusalem fairly easily. The Crusaders told the city that if they opened the gates, no one would be harmed. It was a trick, but it worked. The gates of Jerusalem opened. When the Crusaders entered the city, it turned into a bloodbath. Men, women, and children of all religions were slaughtered. Synagogues and mosques full of praying people were burned to the ground. The Crusaders' horses were knee-deep in blood. 70,000 people were murdered. On July 4th through 6th, 1098, Jerusalem's people were destroyed. Muslims and Jews alike were cut down by the dozens. Christians were raided and exiled. The Crusaders claimed Jerusalem as their kingdom, along with Antioch, Edessa, and Tripoli. After the taking of Jerusalem, the Crusaders and the Muslims clashed occasionally for decades. They fought with one another like the Muslims had been doing amongst themselves, but the big battle was over. The Crusaders had won for now. The ruling powers in Jerusalem and the surrounding area changed for many years to come. The Franks preached about a great victory in the east and opened up trade. This trade led to demand for spices and riches that led to the establishment of more organized city-states in Europe. All of this was a great contributing factor to Europe's Renaissance. Nowadays, people in Europe talk more about the Crusades than people in the Middle East do. The Crusades, from a Muslim point of view, were not seen as an attack on religion. People in Europe, though, boasted about reclaiming the Holy Lands and great victories in the East.